what's up my frogs? This is a hard search engine angle, so I'm gonna try to keep it nice and informative, but very ADHD friendly. This is a very long video because it's going to contain every tier 2 dungeon, so if you're looking for a specific one, just use chapters. Also, if this video helped you, please help me and smash like for the free 5% honing chance increase. Anyway, so the first few ones are kinda easy because you overgear them by default, if you're an island boy like myself. I've completed everything with a few friends or full group, but later dungeons are 8-man, so they'll require more coordination than usual, so I recommend clicking the Party Finder feature, unless of course you play DPS Paladin. You can ask people in the lobby whether or not they know mechanics. Personally, I'm not a big fan of bullying somebody for not studying mechanics before the dungeon, but if you're using Party Finder, it's kind of expected that you're trying a bit harder than clicking the matchmaking button, but hey, since you're here, you probably don't need to hear it. So, for the first guy in the first dungeon, has like no mechanics except for maybe a stagger check. Guy honestly kinda lame for the most part, he just spams bullet hell in your general direction and sounds like a goblin. The only thing that should be dangerous is the aura Lament spawns around him. Don't walk into it, and the rest of it you should just overgear. Oh, if you have a target on you, go into a far corner of the room because he'll spawn a fidget spinner, making you exercise. Okay, so the second boss actually has a wipe mechanic. And it's when she goes back to the middle, she will spawn orbs coming towards the edge of the arena. Then it'll switch and the orbs will start going back towards her. You're gonna need to allocate who's covering which corner of the room. So in a square room, there's 4 corners, 4 of you, makes sense. Use cardinal directions if you want trouble, like, dude, what am I just gonna whip out a compass mid-match? Anyway, you should get used to pinging because you're gonna need it in later dungeons. Pick up the yellow orbs, but not the red ones when they fly out. And then when you pick up 3, you gotta get an aura. And then you use this aura to break the orbs that are flying back towards the boss. You just walk over them and make sure that they don't pass. That's why you got allocated a corner or the side, I guess. Yeah, makes sense. In the end of the boss, there's a stagger check, so don't blow your load too early because this one is a wipe too, I think. It's honestly hard to tell because most people overgear this dungeon due to it being the first one. Moving on. The second dungeon. The first guy doesn't really do anything impressive. He summons demons, you gotta kill those, but for the most part he's fairly simple. Just dodge the red stuff and kill the demons. Oh yeah, and don't overlap the circles, the red circles that he puts around you, or it hurts kind of bad. But yeah, he's pretty much a punching bag too, you'll be fine. The second guy, however, is a bit more complicated-ish. He's got an actual wipe mechanic. So Ajax over here will spawn an angel and a demon, one with white aura and one with red. You'll blow dust into the ground of the color of the dude that you gotta slay. So slay the corresponding aura dude, and then stand on top of the aura that he drops, and he'll protect you from the wipe mechanic. Pretty simple. Oh, and just like the first one, in the end he might do a stagger check, and by might, I mean it always happens 100% of the time. So depending on your damage, you're gonna need to maybe conserve a few abilities, because getting through the stagger checks, honestly, it's not that hard, but if you don't have any abilities, it looks pretty stupid to wipe at the very end of it. Just take it easy, Mr. Pumper. Okay, now we've got some actual gaming to do. So, now that the easy dungeons are out of the way, let's dive right into it. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so these dungeons will be based in the ocean, and you will encounter various aquatic monsters along the way. The mission starts you off in a scuba suit with a separate set of skills, and the entirety of the dungeon start is supposed to let you learn how the mechanics work. So you just press abilities and see what they do. Oh yeah, and your 8-man group is split into 2. Once you've familiarized yourself with the abilities, you are tasked with killing a Hydra, who doesn't do anything notable except for summoning Shark Boy. You'll have to prioritize slaying Shark Boy because something bad happens if you don't. But I actually don't know what happens, but you're supposed to kill him. The thing on top of your head is your air count, and what you need to do is you need to walk over the plants to get the air, and press G on them. If you run out of air, you receive brain damage and lose HP. So, just like in real life. And chop down 2 snakes. Oh yeah, the suits are off now, so you're just mobbing around. Okay, finally, the reason you're here. Now, you get to fight Ocean Man. Holy shit, it's actually him. What I figured works best to motivate your 8 stack of absolute Pepegas is to blow all of your damage right off the bat. Just tell him to throw everything at it at the start and then worry about the mechanics as you go. Speaking of, if you get hit by 4 skills, you get petrified, receiving a bar on top of your character. Your homies can break you out of it, and this is going to be very important. So, remember how I said to get used to pinging? So what you need to do is you need to ping yourself every time that you get frozen. And then the rest of your teammates, you know, monkey see, monkey do, everybody will follow. Prioritize breaking people out over doing damage, and this is especially important for people who are DPS because a lot of DPS have a lot of very fast-hitting abilities. It works really well too, but generally high-tech abilities are the way. Get it? The wave. There are bubbles of air and jets. You want to try to get air whenever you're next to one, or whenever the guy is not doing the big wipe mechanic. The reason why is because he picks one person from the team as the designated safe zone, and then he spawns the circle on them, which you have to stand in to not get wiped. But if you run really far away to go get air, you know, the rest of your team is at the different part of the screen. You can see how this is a problem. Range characters pretty much have to hang out with each other. It sucks, but you know, once halfway, you'll have a new mechanic where he starts walking back on his arms. This is during the second stage, and you know this because he buried himself halfway to the ground. So yeah, he just walks back and walks forward with a petrify laser. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to move to the side of him, and you're gonna want to do it together. But obviously that's not possible to always be together with your team because somebody will split off. So what I recommend doing is go to whichever side and then just start walking back as soon as he passes you, because the laser only petrifies you if you're in front of him. And just make sure that you stay regrouped with the most of your team afterwards that if you kind of got split off or if your group is split into two. Make sure that check if anyone got petrified. If you get petrified outside of the safe zone, you just pretty much die. Personally, I had a little bit of trouble with this one. Partially because of our comp stacking supports on one team and not the other, so make sure you avoid that. But yeah, if somebody ends up dying, it could be kind of hard to not make him go berserk. The second dungeon should start off in a familiar setting. Somebody almost dying of lack of oxygen because their girlfriend called them. First dude you fight has an anchor and a stagger check. You're supposed to use destruction spells and bombs whatever he summons, one of the things, and they start glowing green, but for the most part it's okay to ignore mechanics as long as you pass the stagger check. Oh yeah, so he'll split the screen into 3 Doritos and one of the Doritos will be safe. There's going to be another boss after this that's been put in the game purely for people to get their form, or to get their bars filled up. Somehow I still ended up dying. Anyway, the challenging one is the last one. It's a turtle that makes you play musical chairs. So at the start you want to get into a formation as shown. Spread out approximately to these spots for the upcoming whirlpool wipe mechanic. Once the turtle starts sucking everything up, you will have to catch the orbs that are flying towards the turtle. Then after catching an orb, you will rotate clockwise, then catch another one, and rotate, and then so on and so forth. You will do this twice, and the second time you do this, you need to stop on 3. So 1, 2, 3, then you gotta catch another orb, so a total of 2, and then proceed with the choreography. This is a bit complicated because it is. If the 2 orbs get by, you end up wiping, but just be ready for people to be really confused. Thankfully the boss is quite easy to kill. After doing the mechanic, they give you a pretty big window to pump it. Oh yeah, if you disconnect or if somebody on your team disconnects, just make sure you wait for them. Okay, now for the last one, boys. Mission starts off at the bottom of the ocean, the Marinera's Trench, the Lobster Low, just like your league rank. Once again, you're divided into 2 teams. One team goes on the top floor and the other one goes at the bottom. This is important for the first boss. If you're on the top team, it's pretty simple. I'll explain the important part later. So the first boss you fight is a shark with hands. Bubbles are on top, so grab them early. Moby Dick over here does a wipe mechanic, and the idea is that you need to turn off colorblind mode that doesn't do anything. But the idea is that you need to walk into the light at the bottom. The light is projected by the other team, they're on top of you. And then whoever holds the light needs to walk towards the middle of the arena. It's pretty simple once people wipe a few times, just make sure you don't run outside of the circle since you got a pump, bro. After halfway, this mechanic will repeat, except with an orb that drops down. You gotta kill the orb to get the light, and then walk into your team while spam pinging, then finish the boss. Next up, we get to fight the Guardian, and you'll immediately notice that something ain't right here. The camera changes the way it operates, but after a few seconds you should be adjusted to it. It's actually kind of fun. Anyway, the special things that he does after spitting on you is pick targets and put circles around them. So if you get a circle, don't overlap it with anyone else. Just kind of run and spread out a little bit. More importantly, one of the players will get an arrow or a mark, which requires that player to hide behind a pillar that is in the edge of the arena. After performing his super move, he will Super Soaker blast the pillar and everybody will survive. There's a total of 4 pillars, and the idea is that you have to keep in mind where the pillars are and just kind of hang out next to them in case you get marked. And if you have a circle, please don't run at the pillar. Oh yeah, there's also a stagger check, grab mechanic, where he'll grab one of your homies and you gotta break them out of it, but I legitimately have never seen it because everybody's a god gamer here, I guess. So next up, you're gonna wanna play Match the Picture. You wanna be in this type of formation, or approximately this type of formation, and everybody should have a rough idea where they stand. Nobody does this first try, so you'll wipe and then it'll make more sense as you go. 2 people in mid, 5 people at the top, and 1 guy at the very bottom. The middle 2 locations fluctuate, but the rest are stationary, so remember your location, and I'll explain this later. You actually get to fight motherfucking Poseidon, and he starts out by hitting you while you're still in loading screen. If you have a bad PC, like the previous dungeons, you'll have to break homies out of the paralyze, except that this time, everybody is confused and calls it frozen. Sometimes, you get frozen for real, like this. And if this happens, sometimes you just die. Unlucky. So yeah, don't stand in too many spells because that's how you get frozen. You will reach the first wipe mechanic, a stagger check. You're gonna need to stagger using your stagger abilities. As I mentioned earlier, this is very important to do your job if you have to stagger. I know you gotta pump and all, but after breaking him, you will chase around yellow orbs, trying to not let him get in the middle. Honestly, just wing it. No one needs to match locations, just kind of sprint out, and unless somebody died, you will have enough people to clear all the yellow orbs. After this, you will immediately do the formation check, where you have to attend to your spot. The middle 2 people are gonna have to do a little bit of an improv as the locations vary, but there's a lower one and an upper one, so I don't know, you just kind of figure it out. The locations will save you from the other wipe mechanic, and you just go to your designated location to make sure that everybody has a spot. Sometimes people will take your spot. That's okay. It is what it is. I'll die, I guess. The guy also spawns a giant ice circle, so you don't stand in that. Spawn smaller ice circles that you're not supposed to stand on top of people off with. You can stand next to an orb, but it like cancels it. I don't know, you'll be fine. Just use common sense or this shit happens to. Oh yeah, so there's a trident move where he raises his arms and stabs you with his fork. It hurts a lot, don't stand at that, but yeah, that's pretty much it. After this, you get to hold your 8-man party hostage by not skipping the cinematic, and be as immersed as possible. It's optional to gaslight somebody for being a cinematic coal, but thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, it helps me a lot, as I am a League player and escaping content creation in that game is almost impossible, honestly. See you at the dungeon.